Now what I want to talk about and teach you is floating. So what I've done is I'm going to create this little about section. So I've gone to Udemy and I'm just going to grab my instructor image here, save image as, and we're just going to go, we're already in that images folder, but just to show you, you know, you want to make sure you're in the blog and then images, and I'm going to say me, Ryan, whatever you want to call it, save. Now you should be seeing it in here. All right. So we're going to say image, source. We need to go into the images folder, Ryan.jpg. And let's go ahead and say alt Ryan. All right. So we have that. One thing I want to do is give it the rounded borders. So let's go ahead and say border radius 10 pixels. And let's just see what it takes to get it round. So it's 200 pixels wide and 200 pixels tall, so it's going to take a border radius of 100 pixels to get it there, which is half. So border radius, and let's go ahead and give this an ID, image ID. Actually, say ID equals about. So we have globals, main column, sidebar modules, blog post page, pagination, blog posts. Let's go ahead and do one right here. About page. Oh, sorry about that. And let's say ID about the image in it. We want it to have a border radius, and we can change this later if there's more than one image, but I'm pretty sure I'm just going to have one image. So border radius 100 pixels. Beautiful, nice and circular. Now let's go ahead and I'm going to cheat here and grab some information from my current site, and we want to say is boom, and you can see I have that Twitter highlighter on my site there too, but we want to say H1. I want to make education more effective through both material and method. All right, so it goes to a new line, and we know why. It's because this H1 tag here is a block element. So it automatically goes, it starts and ends with a line break. So it goes to a new line. However, we don't want it to. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do a thing called float. So we're going to take this image and we're going to float it to the left. And what float does is, let's go ahead and, you know how I like to look it up just so we can both talk it out together, CSS float. What float does is it floats an image horizontally. So with CSS float, an element can be pushed to the left or right, allowing other elements to wrap around it. Float is very often used for images. Hint, hint, we just did it, but is also useful when working with layouts. Elements are floated horizontally, so they're floated left or right, not up or down. And a floated element will go all the way to left or right as it can, as it says here. If there's other, well, we'll get into that later. But you can float multiple things on a line, and that's how they do these. That's how they do the how we just saw with the. Let's fix this so I can show you. Reload the page. Once I hit blog over here, see that's how they're doing it with these two divs. So this is just one big div, and we'll get more into this. I'm gonna show you how to do these columns like this, but this column, now that we see how floats is just, so this whole left side is just one big div, as you can see when I scroll over it. This whole right side is just one big div, and they're just floated to the left. So you can see column 8 is a width of 66%, so it's 66% of this container here, but it's floated to the left. And then column right is 33%, and it's floated to the left too. Okay, so they're both floated, and you can float multiple things on a line. And so the blog main comes first, it's floated to the left, and it takes up 2/3 of the page. Blog right comes next, it's floated to the left, and it takes up 1/3 of the page. All right, so they stay right there in a row like that. And that's what we're doing here with this image. So we're going to float it to the right. Or float it to the left, I'm sorry. And you can float it to the right too, just to show you. So now it's over here to the right. But we want to float it to the left. And then we want to give it a little bit margin to the right. That way it gets some space there. Margin right, 20 pixels. Boom. See that? So maybe a little bit more. I like that. So we got it pushed to the right there. So let's go ahead and add this to the about div for the images. So we're floating this to the left, and now the text is just wrapping around it. Very nice. And let's go ahead and that margin bottom is 30 pixels. Let's change that to margin bottom 10 pixels. All right. And I want to also give it a little more text because I want to show you something here. I want to make education more effective through both material and method. Sorry. Method, project-based learning, material. Let's just put a filler in here for now. I want to make education more effective through both material and method, project-based learning. All right. Reload the page. Beautiful. And let's go ahead and give this some attributes here. Inspect this element. Color. I like that. Give it a little E74C3C. Yep. Font family. Open Sans. Font weight 700. Do I want 700? All right, we're not going for the look as much as what I want to show you. So let's go ahead and move on for that. So grab that. All right, now let's put in a little paragraph here. Now we can cheat again. Grab some information here. All right. Well, so you see how it wraps around the image. You can see this goes to the right until it gets down to below the image plus whatever margin I gave it, and then it goes to the next line. However, I want this right here, this H1, to be in line with the image, and then I want to, this to go to a new line and start it. So there's this. So what we use here is called clear. So to clear a float, let's find this paragraph, and we're going to say clear is the property, and then the attribute you can either say left, right, or both. It's automatically none, but we could say both here or left because that image floating to the left, so we want to clear the left, or you can just say both. It doesn't matter. So let's go ahead and just say left. See, if we say right, there's nothing floating to the right, so it stays there. Both works as well. So we're going to say left, doesn't really matter. And now you can see how it goes to a new line. We're also going to give it a little bit of a margin, top 10 pixels. Forgot, since we have that float, we need to do padding, top. There we go. And the reason why is because that margin top would go all the way to it matches this paragraph, because float elements are kind of just floated out there. They don't count as being a part of the page. So what you can see here is, see how it's pushed, that orange is on top of the image there. It's because since it's floated, it doesn't count as like normal static positioning. So see, it won't matter until we hit. See, now that it changed once we hit that paragraph. See that? So just to fix that, we could do a high amount of margin, or we could just say padding top 20 pixels, because that's within this paragraph, as we know. It's not outside the border. So to take away from this lesson, we've learned how to offset columns, so it's not the full width, and we've learned how to float elements so that you can put multiple block elements on the same line, and we've learned how to clear the float. And you got the the initial introduction to float, and we'll go into more complex floats later, and I think in that you'll be able to internalize a little more. So right now you just need to know that you can float things left to right, and then everything floats around it or wraps around it. And later I will show you how to go into more complex floating multiple block elements on a page, similar to how we've done it, or how they've been doing it for us. And by they, I mean Bootstrap, like right here. These are just two big divs that have been floated, as I said before. And they also did it for us in the earlier lessons when we put those three columns side by side in the initial 1 million lines page. So let's go over here and let's give this paragraph, so that we can save all our changes, ID first paragraph. And we'll say I will say first paragraph, clear left, padding top, 20 pixels. And let's go over here back to the about page. Oh, forgot to save the HTML file. And nice. So we have that, and next I'm going to show you how to get this footer, see how it's up here in the middle of the page, to stay down here at the bottom on pages that you need it to.